At this point in our project, I'd like us to start thinking about how we want to manage administrators or locked-in users. So before we jump straight into anything, we're going to create a custom middleware that is going to make sure that only authenticated administrators can create a series, visit the pages to view all those series in the backend and such stuff. So let's go ahead and generate our middleware. PHP artisan, make middleware administrator. You can call this whatever you want, doesn't really matter. Okay, that's created for us. Back into our code, if we head over to our administrator class, it's simply the standard middleware we have. So let's head over to our kernel.php, which is for the HTTP, and we're gonna register our new middleware. So right down at the bottom, I'm gonna save this as admin class, and it's gonna be in the broadcast HTTP middleware directory, and it's gonna be the administrator class. So that's registered. Let's head over to our middleware and see how we want it to work. First of all, I would like to create a custom config file for our project, and this is gonna store project-based configurations. And why do I want to do this? Now, I don't want to create an administrator table and save administrators into the database. Therefore, I think saving administrators in an array will do, and it's gonna solve the purposes for this lesson, right? So we're gonna save administrators in an array, and then this middleware is gonna check if the authenticated user or the currently authenticated user is actually in that array, right? So let's go ahead and do this. Now, for us to create a configuration file, we just need to come into our config directory and create ours, right? Config badclass.php, that's the name of our config file. Okay, so there it is. So we just need to create a PHP script and return an array, just like any of the other configurations. PHP script that returns an array. Okay, so this array now is going to contain key administrators, and it's going to contain emails of administrators. For example, if I want Cathy@friends.com to be an administrator, then I'm going to put it into this key. Okay, then anywhere in our project we can actually access this using Laravel's config helper method. Therefore, right here, what we want to do is first of all check if the user is authenticated. Then we're going to check if the user is an administrator. If not, then we're going to redirect the user to some page or somewhere. We'll start by saying if auth check, then if the user is an administrator. So let's reference this method on the user class. So we'll get the authenticated user in this case, and we'll call is admin. And this method will tell us if the user is actually an administrator. So if he's an administrator, then we're simply going to return next request. So we'll allow the user to go to the next stage of the application, right? Or continue to where he was actually heading to. Then if the user was not permitted, then we're simply going to return redirect to the home page. Okay. And also in this case, we also want to redirect the user to the home page. You never want to allow your middleware hanging, right? So if this condition fails, it should actually have something to run. If not, your middleware is going to be hanging. Really bad case. Okay, so if the user is not authenticated, he will go back to the home page. If the user is authenticated but is not an administrator, he will also go back to the home page. But if the user is an administrator, then he's gonna pass this stage of the onion and go to the next. Okay, so let's create that method, user.php. Let's create an isAdministrator method, and this will simply return in array. And this in array method is a PHP method, and it takes in the needle, and we're gonna pass in this email, and the haystack is the array itself. So we pass in the email, and we pass in config badclass.administrators as the haystack, right? So we have an array of administrators, which is right here. In the badclass configuration, we have an administrators key, and it contains an array of, or it contains the emails of all administrators. Then in our user class, we have this it's admin method. It simply checks if the current user actually is found in this array. So if it's not found in this array is just gonna return false. Okay, so looks like our middleware would work just fine. It checks if the user is an administrator, then it just allows the user to go through. If not, then it returns the user back. Okay, so let's go ahead and implement this middleware in our routes file. So right here we have a group of admin. What we want to do is attach a middleware to this group, and this is going to be the admin middleware. So this is coming from our kernel.php, just like we registered it. Okay, so if this was called admin badclass, that's exactly what we are going to reference in our routes file. Awesome. So now that we've applied that, this is a route that comes from that route group. So if we head over to web, this is registered in that route group. Let's try to refresh our page now and see if we are redirected to the home page because the user is not logged in. So quick refresh and we're redirected to the home page. But if we log in right now, we don't have any users. Okay, I'm just going to register one. So name is Cathy, email is Cathy@france.com, and the password is password. Register, and we're redirected to home. And it actually took a while because I think it's actually sending the email we asked it to send. Now, let's try to visit the admin series create page, and we actually visited the page, right? But if we come to our broadcast configuration and actually pulled out this user's email from the administrators list and try to refresh the page, we're automatically redirected to the home page, meaning this user has lost his administrator privileges. So I think for a project where we don't have to apply many stages or many roles of administration, this works just perfectly. So now that I've put that user back as an administrator, I'm going to try to visit that route again. And sure enough, I have access. So our middleware is working perfectly. Why don't we write some tests for this middleware in the next lesson?